Good morning, everyone. Today I'd like to dedicate this morning's learning in memory of my mother, Mrs. Shalamis Rabinowitz, Shalamis Basar Rav Yaakov Eliezer. We are starting a new Masechta today, a new tractate, Masechta Arla. Arla literally means to close up. And Arla is the word the Torah uses to forbid us from using the fruit of a tree during its first 3 years of growth. So if you plant a tree, the first 3 years of fruits that grow are forbidden. They're forbidden to eat. They're forbidden to even have benefit from. They have to be burned. That's for the first 3 years. The Torah only applies this by fruit of a tree. It doesn't apply to vegetables or to grains. And interestingly, although the other mitzvahs that we call mitzvahs hatliyas ba'aretz, mitzvahs that are connected to the ground, only apply in the land of Israel, Arla applies even outside of Eretz Yisrael. There are some distinctions between Arla of Eretz Yisrael and Arla of Chutz La'aretz, of outside of Eretz Yisrael, but the law of Arla applies in Chutz La'aretz also. And therefore, if you have a tree, its first 3 years of fruits are going to be forbidden, again, to eat from or to benefit from because of the law of Arla. And that is what our Masechta is going to be discussing right now. And that's what it's called. It's called Mishna Arla. Okay, so today we have a short first Mishnah, Parak Aleph, Mishnah Aleph, chapter 1, Mishnah 1. Hanateya l'siyag ulakairis. If you plant a fruit tree, but you didn't plant it for its fruits, you planted to use it as a fence or for its beams for building. So it is a fruit tree, but you didn't plant it for that purpose. Pater min ha'arla, bin ha'arla. That tree is exempt from the law of Arla. The Torah describes the fruit tree that the law of Arla applies to as eitz machal, a food tree. That means it was planted for food. But if you didn't plant it for food, you planted it for other reasons, as a fence, to use its beams for wood, the law of Arla doesn't apply, and the fruits that do grow from it aren't forbidden. They're permissible right away. Rabbi Yosi says, Afilu amar hapanimi l'machal v'achitza l'siyag. Even if you say what faces inwards, inside towards my property is for food, and the outer part of the tree is for fence, meaning you got a tree. He's saying the inside half that's facing towards my property, that I'm planting for the fruits. But the outside part, I'm planting it for the purpose of being a fence. Rabbi Yosi says, "Hapanimi chayev, whatever grows on the inner part will be obligated in Arla. V'achitza pater, but the outer part will be exempt, even if it's the same tree. If part of it was meant for being a fence and part of it is meant for growing its fruit, the part that's meant for growing the fruit, that will have the law of Arla apply to it. The part that wasn't planted for its fruit will not have the law of Arla apply to it." Excuse me. That's Rabbi Yosi's opinion. The Baratz says halacha does not follow Rabbi Yosi, and we do not split a tree like that to say half is one way, half is the other way. If the tree even partially is planted for the purposes of food, it's considered a food tree, and therefore, no matter which part of the tree, even if you intended part of the tree not to be used for fruit, it would be obligated. But again, if the whole tree was planted not for the purpose of growing fruit, then the law of Arla does not apply to it. We continue now with the laws of Rechilas from the Chavetz Chaim, Klal chapter 1, Sif Daled, paragraph 4. Okay, so as we've been saying, Rechilas is when you tell someone what a third party did to them. And we said that even if you're not intending to cause any kind of strife between the person who you're telling to what the third party did to them or not, if at the end of the day that's what it's going to do, it's Rechilas. So everything written until now that says that it's forbidden to speak Rechilas. That's true even if it's completely true without any falsehood involved. And of course, it doesn't need to be said that if, let's say, before you spread this rechilas, these two people were friends, and now you go and tell one what the other one did to him, for the purposes of letting him know that this person hurt him, okay, and not for any kind of constructive purpose. Rasha Mikri, you're called evil for doing that, for creating strife between people that were friends. That is the act of an evil person, and he's considered despicable in the eyes of Hashem for doing this. As the pasuk states, there are 6 people that Hashem despises, and the 7th is despicable to him. And the example that's given is one who basically creates strife, hatred between brothers. This example that is listed, that's the 7th. Upon me, there are there are other things that are listed, the things that Hashem despises. The 7th, we say it's despicable to Hashem, and that 7th thing is brought down as the one. It's mentioned. I think it's mentioned in the pasuk, one who creates strife between brothers, and our sages say that this 7th one, that this is the 7th one that's worse than all of them, basically creating hatred between people that were getting along. That is for sure going to be a forbidden form of rechilas. Let's say beforehand they couldn't stand each other. And he hears one speak against the other. He tells the person what that other person said about him. And you'll say, well, they don't like each other anyway. You're not really making much of a difference. Rachel Mikri. Nonetheless, you're still called a Rachel. You're still speaking Rachel. It's still forbidden. Because the more you add to it, the greater the hatred becomes. So therefore, clearly a person who creates strife between people is doing a terrible, terrible thing. But even if you could say, well, they don't like each other anyway, I'm not doing that, nonetheless, it's still called rechilas because you are increasing the dislike that there are between the two. Have a wonderful day.